Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we're back with the final video for Heroes Jubilee 36 Boss Battle 2. This is the fight that I could improve probably the most on because my best run that I'm going to show you guys, Benimaru's single target ult crit, and you don't want to crit in this fight. So it did set me back a little bit, but it was still my best run. So I mean, we'll take it, and we'll just don't crit here because you have total control over that, right? It's the single target stage though, and it's built for the Benimaru orb change. So the one green and one orange. So if you don't have Benimaru, you have to bring someone else that can do that. There are a few free to play units that can, but same rules apply here, where you can't crit and you can't use 80-point skills. And orange and green orbs are heavily nerfed, so gotta bring a blue team, gotta bring some fire units that don't crit. So, bring the meta. There's a Konosuba-ish, not really, but we use Konosuba Rimuru as a protector, but obviously he's a collab unit, and most people nowadays playing probably don't have him. So I'm going to show you, but you might not have it. And then we got a few other teams. But let's go ahead and get started. Alright, first team is again the meta team. This time we've made one small alteration to the one we used for Boss Battle 1, and that is we took out Gobta. Because our starting hand is set for Benimaru, we don't need, quote-unquote, Benimaru, but we can still certainly use him. But for this one, I'm going to go with Hinata and Summer Shizu, because she has that weakness strike that lasts for 2 turns, and also has an alt swap. And this will just get us more damage overall. Okay, so turn 1 is the Benimaru orb change. And the less you need to orb change, the better throughout this fight. So if there are turns where you don't need to use Shuna or Benimaru's orb change, fantastic. But generally, most of the time, you're going to need one of them. Most of the time, it's going to be Shuna's, which is going to be more difficult here because we have 2 units who are not Tempest Elite. And it does make planning things out a little bit more difficult. But 6-hand send, since this is a single target, we will be prioritizing Benimaru and Rimuru instead of Shuna and Rimuru, because Shuna will not do as much damage here. If you happen to get a Shuna ult, then great. Look at this hand. Thank God we can use her skill here. We're also going to put the Pierce buff on now, and then we're going to use, I think, 2 stacks of Trainee. Or no, okay, we're just going to use 1 right now. So there's a reason for only using 1 when we have access to 2. I promise there's a reason. But I don't remember what I was talking about before that. Yeah, I don't remember. Okay, moving on. So we have 1.5 ults for Rimuru. We still have a double stack of Training now. We've got points. So here, again, though, yeah. It'll be nice if you will get a Shuna ult, but it is not necessary to get a Shuna ult, because you're really needing Benimaru and Rimuru to be the fully buffed ones more than anything else. So we're going to orb change here. We're going to swap Shuna out now, and we're going to bring in Summer Shizu for Shuna, and we're going to use both of her skills, the alt swap and the weakness strike, because it will last for 2 turns. And we're holding on to this other stack, these 2 stacks, for a reason, because we're going to use 1 now, and that'll give us 2 next turn with this full hand of blues, and that means we can just immediately boost Benimaru up. Now we've swapped Summer Shizu out for Hinata, so next turn we can put the element buff on both our single target nukers and send them both to the back, so they can hold on to everything. So here, that actually gets us a Benimaru ult, which is actually very, very nice. So we don't have to worry too much about that. We can just use 1 stack of Trainee. So it really cuts down on the RNG that we need for turn 4, because ideally you would want a full hand of blues. That's not really going to be in the cards right now, from what I'm seeing. So we can just use 1 stack of Trainee. We got to use the element buff first, and a burn here. So, burn. Thank you. Burn, plus 1 stack weakness strike. I've been corrected. His weakness strike is only on himself. I realized that. So thank you, people, for pointing that out. Sorry, I misread it. It makes him not as good as I thought he was anyways, which he's still fine. He's now just a pure DPS character who is going to get phased out very quickly. But we'll cover that in the tier list video. So, now, both Benimaru and Rimuru have the Pierce buff, they have the Element buff, and they have the Weakness Strike buff. The Element and the Weakness Strike are going to expire if we don't put them in the back. So, the reason I'm waffling around here so much is I'm trying to figure out how best to make this work. So Shuna is going to come in for Rimuru. She has to come in for Rimuru, essentially. So boom, there we go. Now we can use one use of Trainee, give the EX ult to Benimaru, and now in a perfect world, this hand would be full blue. In a perfect world, but this is not a perfect run. So we're just gonna have to run it. Because if this was perfect, we would have a full hand of blues, and we could then use the other stack of Trainee to give Shuna her ult. And that would be very, very nice. But it's not the case here. So we're gonna hold on to it so we can use it next turn. So this is what it's gonna have to be right here. So we're gonna send the 4 Shizu orbs. We've got 88 points plus the 30 that we're gonna get from Trainee's passive. Follow-up attack's cool, a little bit of burn damage. And now, there we go. We have Shizu and Shuna orbs, which is fine, because we only need those 2 units. Hinata's already buffed, Shizu's already buffed, Shuna's already buffed. Everyone up front now is expendable, and we just need the 2 single targets. So Rimuru will come in, and then Benimaru will come in, and we'll have 3 greens and 2 ults, 118 points, so buff, buff, and buff. So the personal buff for Rimuru, the second stack of burn, so now we're doing 60% burn damage, and then the physical buff and the ult resistance down from Benimaru. And again, our 2 single targets have every single buff available in the team. And then we'll send the Benny and Rimuru orbs. So Benny does crit 167, not great. 1.4 for Rimuru, that's pretty good. And then the final orb is 123, follow-ups 94, 287, and the burn does 1.2 million damage, which is crazy. But Benimaru crit. So in order for this run to be better, we would need Benimaru to have his full damage potential. Because we probably could have broken like 4.5, somewhere around there, million damage if he didn't crit. Because he did like 160 and he should be doing like 3 something. So, high 4.4 to 4.5 is doable. That would have pushed us up a little bit higher than 125. So that's just bad RNG, but I haven't gotten a run better than that since, so maybe I'll try it again and have him not crit. But that's up to you. But there's the first meta team. Let's move on. Alright, the next team was recommended to me by one of the other sweaty tryhards, TMFM, and this team has a few conditions, right? It's the half meta team. It expects you to have Konosuba Rimuru, the new Benimaru, and the new Shuna. So, I mean, that's a big ask right there. But if you have it available, and you don't have Trainee, and you don't have Rimuru, certainly make do with this. Summer Lumi, and then the 2 Fire Shizus. So, everyone is super weak point, technically. And we are just stacking damage on the 2 Shizus as much as possible. So we have the Weakness Strike, we have the ult buff, we have the fire damage, we have the physical buff, we have the pierce buff. There's a lot of things going on this team. And it will allow our 2 single targets to hit incredibly hard. So it just needs, a bit of luck. But we do have orb changers here, right? We do have Shuna, who can make things work, just that you really got to play around with it, because we have now 3 units who are not on Tempest Elite, and 2 who are, which means that her orb change is going to be very, very hard to navigate. We're also starting with skill point trait, 2 of them, so we're down a little bit on skill points and protection gauge, and this is to ensure that the next turn after we send this full hand of blues, we would have enough points to use, a number of things. Now his team also had Benimaru with his trait, which gave us extra skill points, so we're not running super optimal, but for this run specifically, it did work out because we got a lot of blues, which is nice. So there's 2 stacks. We can use Shuna's orb change here because both the Shizu orbs are blue already. That worked out very well in our favor. But Christmas Shizu is going to have to come out because she doesn't have any orbs anyways. So we'll leave Benimaru in and see if we can get a single target ult for him as well. So orb change, boom. Because we're stacking with Rimuru, we're going to get a lot of the buff from Lumi. Hopefully we can get all 5 stacks. We have enough points here to now use the charm effect and the extra blue damage, and then we'll do the 2 stacks of Protector Rimuru. eventually. As soon as I think about it. As soon as I think about it. Okay, there we go. Alright, 2 stacks. Boom. I believe we have a Pierce Power Charm on. Is that what I saw? Might be something else. Might be a Fire Charm, actually. No, it's not a Fire Charm. Alright, what charm are we running? Alright, so there's the charm. That gets us the Benimaru ult, which is good. And then the Shizu ult, which we're going to need a little bit more than that. Since there's not multiple targets, reapplying the charm effect on him will not double it. It will just extend it. So not really too much of a use there. Another stack of Rimuru. And now Summer Shizu has an orb change, or an ult swap. So we can use that here and pray that it hits. So we'll use this to convert that. And then we'll bring Shuna in. No, actually, we'll bring Christmas Shizu in. Okay. No, I feel like we should alt swap first. Okay, or we can do that. That works too. Oh, okay. That's a choice. Okay, that is a choice. I don't know why I made that choice, but I made that choice. Alright, we got the Benimaru alt out of there, because... yeah, whatever. Oh, he's not super weak point anyway, is he? No, he's not. Him and Shuna are not super weak point. What am I talking about? I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I never know what I'm talking about. Alright, we got a good Benimaru orb change here, though. So there's that, and the alt swap. There's the full hand of blues. We will reapply the charm effect with Lumi now, because it ran out, and we need that extra alt gauge. We're getting a lot of Shizu. Oh, we have the alt gauge rush charm. That's what we've got. Okay. That's why we have an EX ult for her already. So the 16% alt gauge on the highest attacking character is the charm that we're using. And now we just need to make use of the Enamor from Lumi to help get us that Christmas Shizu ult. Because, 2 orbs here, it's a last turn. These 2 orbs by themselves would not get us that ult, but this will. So, let's go ahead and use it. And then it also buffs our blue damage, which is nice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got max points. We got another stack of Rimuru. So we're doing 39k a hit. That's pretty good on these blue orbs. 78k with the Pierce. Awesome. Alright, and now the charm kicks in, and boom, there is the Shizu ult. So now 1 more stack of Rimuru, and that should cap us out with Summer Lumi's ult buff. And let's take a looky look. I think, yeah, so Summer Lumi will have to use her buff, and then we'll have to bring Benimaru in for his physical buff. So let's make sure Lumi is at 100%. Perfect. And then we'll use that, and we'll bring her out for Benimaru, who's got the 40-point buff. The Pierce buff has been active for a while now. I don't think I called it out, but we did use it. So Benimaru comes in. Now, if we had held on to that ult, it may have made kind of getting orbs a little bit funky, but it is what it is. So now, buff, buff, and we can use the Shizu buff as well. I think I use it after the fact, because I get reminded about it. Because it does help Christmas Shizu's damage, because even though it's not an AoE, like there's not 3 enemies, she's still launching an AoE attack, so it will help her a little bit. So let me, yep, there we go. You gonna use it? No, you can, no, there we go. See, sometimes we're dumb, sometimes we're smart, and sometimes it just takes a while. Alright, now we've used everything that we can possibly do, so we'll send Shizu first, and we'll send the other Shizu orbs. So Christmas Shizu, 695 is actually really good for her AoE. And then Summer Shizu does 1.9 million damage. And I mean, look at that. We're at 3.3 million. So, I mean, we're a million off of what my other team did, but still, that's a lot of damage for this team. It's just it needs a few specific characters to actually work. So, obviously, if you don't have Benimaru, you're going to have to bring someone else that also has an orb change, because you know, turn 1 is built for that. If you don't have the new Shuna, you'd have to bring like Dark Shion or something, but then you need another orb changer. It gets a little hairy. So this team, I realize, is not very accommodating for a lot of players, but you can use a stacking strategy, and which we will do so in the next run as well. Alright, the third team is, like I said, another stacking team. We've got Protector Shuna, who is stacking Stun Strike and Pierce Power. You can stun, And Pierce is what the new meta is focused on, so that works too. Free-to-play Soka has the turn 1 orb convert. Free-to-play Water Rimuru has the green convert and everything like that. Light Raphael has the stun, has the pierce, has the alt resistance down, and Fire Milim, being fire physical, is super weak point. She is on New Year's Blessings, which means that Raphael will give her that extra stun strike and everything because he is skill fused. And she has the crit seal ability. And she's also skill fused in this run, I believe. So for 2 turns, you can crit freely without, lowering your damage score. And then we've got Water Shuna, who's got the orange orb change and the alt buff ability. So this team, is built fairly well, but I'm going to have to make a quick cut. Alright, sorry. Had to take my pizza out of the oven. But turn 1, again, we brought Soka, who also has the stun extension ability, something that doesn't ever get used or talked about because it has almost no value most of the time. So it does allow us to keep Diablo stunned for 2 turns if we so choose to. But we're gonna send Fire Milim last because she is super weak point, and we're gonna do okay damage here, right? Most of these units are very old. Actually, no, all of these units are very old. But Raphael and Milim do have their skill fusions, so that may hold people back. But because Raphael is skill fused, he now gives that 40% extra stun strike to other New Year's Blessings and Otherworld Legend characters instead of just giving it to himself, which is nice. So it'll just help Milim do more damage. Like, even if Raphael's not actually skill fused, you can still run this team. And you'll do less damage, sure, but it'll still be fine as a substitute, right? So we've got 62 points. Let's use the Shuna orb change, and then we'll bring Rimuru in for his orb change. This is why we have 3 orb changers on the team. Technically, Fire Milim also has a single green to blue orb change, which can come in handy if you need it to. But, we're just going to stack. We don't stack for a long time, right? This is a 5-turn fight, and not like an 8-turn fight, so we are missing quite a bit of power. Also, we can't bring any 55-point buff or 80-point buffs, so it really does hold us back a lot. So that's why we're not running a lot of the other characters. We can't even run Summer Lumi, or not Summer Lumi, but Light Lumi. Not that we would, because Fire Milim is our DPS. But, if you really, really, really wanted to, you could take out Soka for, Fire Shizu or something, or Summer Shizu, and forego that turn 1 orb change, just send the 4 blues and go from there. You could always do that instead and just bring another buffer. That's up to you. But essentially, since we also don't have any EX characters, we don't really need to force alt gauge here, right? So we can run protection gauge on blue charm, which is what we're doing, just to get extra stacks and get as much pierce power and stun strike as possible. So this is the second to last turn, right? And we do need to get Milim's alt, which we definitely will here after we do all the orb changing. So we can do the single, and then we can do Soka's again. We could do Rimuru and Shuna's again. It really honestly does not matter. So we're actually going to... Now we're going to stun, because we kind of don't have enough points for that right now. Because we haven't had that much time to stack, honestly. So we're not going to use too much. We'll probably use the crit buff and then the orb changes, because the crit buff does last for 2 turns. And that makes sure that if we do crit even this turn, or that we will crit, but the crits will be, normal damage and not nerfed by his, I think, 80 or 100% crit resistance, something crazy like that, something dumb. I really, really don't like stages that really take away those extra crit damage potential, because crit is a big thing. Pierce is really not a big thing. Synergy is becoming a thing, and we can at least do synergy on the stage. If they had taken that away too, this would have been awful. But we're thinking hard about what I want to do here. We are going to bring Rimuru in and use his orb change. So, not a big deal. That's what we should be doing. And then we will probably use the crit buff and make sure that we can do that after we bring Soka in. Just because she has a little bit extra stats from being underneath Protector Shuna. So it'll make her hit a little bit harder. But there we go. That's the only thing we'll use, because we don't have enough points to use the stun and the extension, so there's no point using it now. And we'll have enough points next turn anyways. So Fire Milim gets her alt. If you can get an alt for Raphael, then great. Awesome. Unnecessary, but it will definitely could help your score out a little bit. because he would still also be getting the stun strike and pierce power and ult and all that. So, but we're running this just as, with Fire Melon. So now we'll use the orb change to get a full hand of blues. Perfect. And then we'll bring Water Shuna in, who's going to use her alt buff ability, and then we'll use everything else available to us. So we have to stun first, though, before we send Ahsoka away. So stun first, and then use the stun extension. Because if you do it in the opposite order and try to extend the stun that doesn't exist, it will fail, and then you won't get that. But honestly, it's the last turn, so we don't really need the extension at the same time. So, but we do get the defense down from that skill also. It's up to you. If you were going to stun extend, you would have done it last turn and kept him stunned. But here, it doesn't matter as much. 287 is not great. It's not great, but if it's what you got, it's what you got. Crit Pierce for 52k. It puts you at 519. So, I mean, hey, it's a number. It's an S rank on Boss Battle 2, right? And that's the important part. So that's the third team, and now let's come back with the sad team. Alright, the final team is kind of funny. We've got Towa, free-to-play Sokka again for that turn 1 orb change, free-to-play Hero for the burn, Christmas Shizu for the fire buff, Violet for her burn and attack buff, and then Water Shuna for her alt buff. Now, the thing to note is that because Diablo has that massive crit resistance, you cannot use Violet's other attack skill, because it gives her guaranteed crits and guaranteed pierce for 3 turns. But that means that if you use it, then for 3 turns, your damage is nerfed, because he's got so much crit resistance, it's not going to matter. So the only skill that you can use Violet for is her attack skill, which also has the burn effect. My Violet is not skill fused, so you don't have to worry about that. But we brought Sokka again for the turn 1 orb change. We've got 3 fire units here, so we can make use of that. Even though I think we swap out Hero for Water Shuna. No, okay, we're good. Never mind. Right? Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, so 8,000 damage. Violet is fire physical, so she is, super weak point, which is nice. And we will have, multiple stacks of burn. Hero's burn only lasts for 1 turn. Violet's does for 3, so there are ways that we can really make that work and do extra damage just by being a lot of fire characters. Oranges here are not nerfed, so that's nice, which means that we can get a lot of gauge very quickly, and then we can give it away to Violet, and then we can get 5 Violet orbs here. Very good. It's not an EX character. We don't need to hold it for anything. We have an EX ult, though, which means that we can send off a bunch of Violet ults and just kind of build upon that burn damage. So 29k burn right there. Not great, but we weren't fully buffed, but now we have an ult, and we have another Towa. So this run is all about just smashing Violet ults into Diablo's face. Something that she very fails to do in both the... in anything that she's in, actually. Right? She couldn't really do anything against Diablo in the movie. She couldn't do anything against Lumi in the OVA. I think... Is Violet a scam? Is she a scam artist? Is she not actually good at stuff? I don't know. I don't know the lore. I don't read the thing. But we've got 3 stacks of burn. We've got the attack buff. We've got everything now. So this will look pretty good, except he guarded that hit, which is unfortunate. But we do 61k in burn damage, which is nice. And then, look at this hand. Right? We've got a full blue hand if we wanted to make it so. So we could send the Violet ult and 5 blue. We could reapply some burns here if we wanted. So we'll do the Violet burn because it'll last for 3 turns. So we'll do that one and extend her attack buff. Towa. Okay, so we instead went with that because we have a bunch. We have a double Towa or a double Violet ult. So we're going to hold on to the fire buff here, and we're just going to continue to send this now with 3 stacks of burns. That's 60% right there. The same as 2 stacks of the greater burn. Let's use the fire buff just to help us out a little bit, because we're not going to have the points or the gauge to get a good turn 5 hand. So we're going to maximize what we can do here. Except we didn't use the alt buff as well. So, did we have enough points for that? I don't actually know. But we're up to 544, which is technically more than what that previous team with Fire Millum did. And now, we're just going to do this. And we're gonna do, we have 2 stacks of burn again. and not much else to do. I don't think I used the alt buff here at all, which may have been a mistake. We could have maybe even gotten more damage if we had held on to things. And I had, nuked this turn, but I've had full points in another Towa. So we could have maybe been a little bit higher. We could have been over 700k if we had played it a little bit smarter. But hey, it's an example video. It's a sad team. It does get us quite a bit more than the last one, though. But it's a burst team now. So, and it's all fire. But those are the 4 teams that you can use for Boss Battle 2. Again, they're just ideas. Please, use what you have available. But that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.